Firstly, Manu, lovely to chat with you on this podcast and on a topic which is close to our heart, which is the state of the auto market and how Mahindra is doing in it. The Thar Roxx, to start with your specific first question, got off to a very good start. Bookings have just opened a few hours, 1 hour back actually, and we'll have the results out soon, and you can maybe add that as a super. I can't share it with you right now. But the product has received an overwhelming response from the time even before we revealed it on 15th August. But specifically from 15th August, as we've gone through, the process of displaying, test drives, it's almost been a mass hysteria, if I could use that word, where customers have been really, really excited. We've had kids walk into the showroom with Thar tattoos, and we've had kids who just wouldn't leave the vehicle in the showroom and literally had to be pulled out. So it's really drawn, somehow touched a chord with a very, very large segment. We even hear auto journalists, and we chat with them as they've driven the vehicle. Everywhere they go with the vehicle, they get stopped. So that's the response this product has drawn before we opened the bookings. The bookings have opened, and as we were expecting a very good number, which is about to be released as we are talking. And I'll let you add that on later. I can't share it with you till it's out publicly. Actually, Manu, Thar represents the core of our brand. The brand Mahindra has been associated with these form of vehicles for decades. And it's always been very aspirational for people, going back to the movies of the 60s and 70s. Which many of us have grown up with, to see a vehicle in this format with the spirit of exploration, having fun, doing the difficult things on difficult roads. So it's always been very aspirational to own vehicles like this. I think what had happened over time is we had not upgraded the product enough for it to be a mainstream product in which people felt very comfortable driving it and sitting in it. So the product needed technology, sophistication, ride quality, refinement, all of that. And as soon as we brought that, starting with 2020 with the first Thar 3-door and now with the Thar Roxx, it suddenly feels like it's a mainstream product, because if I can get this at the price of any other competing SUV or a C-segment car or a C-segment SUV, why would you buy something which is me too when you can have something which is so stunning at a very similar price? So it's a combination of product form which has been upgraded to make it very friendly for use and at prices which make it a mainstream product. Manu, and it's probably the most debated part of the whole launch strategy, where everyone has a point of view on whether we did the right thing or not. Just the story that goes behind it is, one of the ideas was to call it Thar 5, and that was the only name we were seriously considering, and we kind of decided not to go with that, because we said this is much more than adding a few doors. It's a completely different product, different technology, different level of sophistication, so on and so forth. So it wasn't just about saying, there is a Thar 3-door, we extended a little bit, added a couple of doors, and now you have a Thar 5. So we wanted to break away from the fact that, this is just a 5-door version of the 3-door. So it needed its own identity. But it needed an identity which didn't overwhelm the master brand. So, you had to have the right balance of a name which was neutral enough, yet meant something, but not a name which becomes, supersedes the main master brand, which is Thar. A lot of social media was speculating that we would call it Armada. Well, we never planned to call it Armada, because firstly, Armada was associated with old and not sophisticated, and this was very sophisticated and refined. But Thar and Armada would clash. I mean, we want this to be known as Thar, not as much Roxx or whatever. So the name had to be very simple, very short, so it didn't overwhelm the master brand. We stuck upon Roxx for a few reasons. One is, we kind of said, it has the solidity of a rock. So we wanted to do something around the solidity of a rock. We wanted it to be vibrant, youthful, energetic, and hence rock star, and yet have its own identity. So you kind of played around with it and made it an ROXX. But really, it is a Thar, and the name here is indicative of something new, but you are really buying a Thar. So firstly, Thar Roxx is going to go into a very, very different segment than what the Thar went into. Just going back to storytelling, maybe a year or two back, one of our dealers, when I was traveling, told me that you're going to get a very big booking when you launch this product. And I said, like, what makes you so confident? You haven't even seen it. He said, for everyone who has booked or bought a Thar 3-door, they have at least 3 people who are either friends or relatives who would have bought it if it was 5 doors. So if you sold X amount of 3-door, you're going to sell a multiple of that in the 5-door version, because for every customer who bought it, there were 3 who wanted to buy it but didn't buy it because they needed the second row space and the extra doors. So this is, we believe, can be the only vehicle in the family, because it's and that's why we call it mainstream. That's why we have very strong and high ambitions for it, because it can be the only vehicle in the house. Yeah, actually it wasn't. It may have been on the drawing board at some stage, but there was really no active action taken towards making it. When we saw the success of the 3-door, it was obvious that we were sitting on something really, really huge, and this has potential to be a brand by itself. And we really, we shouldn't forget that before 2020 we were selling 500 a month of this, and then we had a 3-door version which went up to 5,000 to 6,000 a month. We've taken the capacity now of the portfolio up to 9,500. We weren't prepared for this kind of a response. We started work immediately after we launched the 3-door and saw the success of it, and it took longer because we didn't want to just make it an elongated version which loses its proportions. So a lot went into improving the ride so that families feel comfortable in it, and then of course we added the pano sunroof and the soft trim and the Harman Kardon system and all of that, which has made it the product it is today. Well, when we got started on this journey, the first thing we did is kind of said we need a very clear articulation of our right to win. When you go back 5 years, there was very strong competition from multiple players around the world. And naturally the question was being asked on what is our right to win. We had lost share, we had a few launches which were not as successful. So we had to answer for ourselves and external stakeholders the question, what is our right to win? And that's when we got around to articulating how we would go about approaching that. And here are some of the pillars. One is we kind of set out a brand purpose. And as a part of setting out a brand purpose, we made a list of things that we would not do. Example, we don't want our brand to go into fleets. Of course, it's tempting because it's a segment of the market which does get volumes. But we kind of said if we really want to create an aspirational brand value, you don't want your product going into fleets. We don't want our product to become MPV kind of people carriers. We really want to create a brand which is about products with what we call unmissable presence. So when you see it on the road, it stands out for who it is, which is the brand Mahindra DNA. A level of sophistication, a level of technology, which is bringing technologies to customers which they haven't experienced before. But fundamentally, the essence of the brand was creating vehicles with adventure capability. And the articulation for us as the brand essence, as we would call it, was explore the impossible. This tied in very well, fortunately for us. COVID was a very difficult time, but COVID also brought out a very different set of expectations that customers wanted with their lives as they overcame that or even were going through that. COVID had confined us to, four walls for days and months together. And then there were a bunch of people who kind of said, you want to kind of unshackle out of that life and experience freedom. And in a way, Thar fitted in perfectly in that narrative of saying we want to get a brand out there, or we want to own a product which allows us to get away from it all and explore things we haven't done before. So that's where we got started. But if I was to just dial back to the pre-2020 time, and I think there were three really good products which had got conceptualized and were in the pipeline. One was, of course, the Thar 3-door. The other one was the XUV, which we launched as the XUV 700. It was called as a project the 500 refresh, and then the Scorpio N, which was meant to be to begin with to replace the Scorpio. But what we knew we had a very good pipeline. All of these were very strong products as we saw them and as I drove them as I got into my role in 2020. The challenge was how do we position these, make them aspirational and accessible. And that's always a very difficult balance to get. You want to create something which is very aspirational, but yet you want people to be able to have access to it and be able to afford it. And which is why we've created variant strategies which cut across a very wide price points, set of price points. So typically, we move products from the Thar was from 11 to 16, 17, or from actually sub 10 to 16, 17. The XUV 700 when we launched it was from 11 to 17. Scorpio N has been something very similar, 11 to 18, 19, 20. And then even we've done the same with Roxx. So we basically create a very wide brand of varianting, which allows us to appeal to different segments. So you create a lot of accessibility while you're still creating aspirational values. Apart from being publicly listed, you of course have a set of internal stakeholders, your own boards, who are going to kind of have this question on, are we giving up a lot to get something? And I think really one has to have a sense of conviction around what we are going to do, and the success of Thar helped that process. Thar was, if Thar had not succeeded, it would have been very hard to say that yes, you can actually create volumes in this strategy. But Thar proved to us and to everybody else that niche is not actually a niche. It depends on how you see it. And niche allows you to create differentiation. And if you are able to create brand differentiation, then you actually get people to your brand from multiple other sources of vehicles. So, and that's what has happened with many of our vehicles, right? So, when we launch something like a Thar, people ask us, or even Roxx, who is your target group? It's actually, there is no one single target group. The Thar Roxx is getting customers from the C segment cars, SUVs, all of that. And to your question, as we've now repositioned the Thar 3-door, it is appealing to a very different segment. It's actually getting people from compact SUVs, from hatches, because we've in a way made it more accessible. It's also continues to have young couples as a target audience, or the adventure lovers. This was your earlier question on how these two are different from each other. So the success of Thar helped build conviction amongst all stakeholders that you can actually follow a strategy which is high on differentiation, and we are not going to do something which an ex-killer or an ex-fighter. And in many analyst calls, if you go back, this question kept coming at us for a long time, which is, where is your ex-fighter? I'm not naming the ex, but where is your ex-fighter? And our answer to that was always, we will not do a me too ex-fighter. We will create products which are unique, which are differentiated, and which will draw source of business from other so-called products in that category. And we really don't believe that customers buy a 4.2 or a 4.4 meter length or whatever. That's a very manufacturer definition of how you approach products. So as long as you're able to give the right space and you create the right aspirational values, you are going to get people who fall in love with your brands, and really that is what we've been attempting to do. Yeah, Manu, of course there is, some of the brands have a very, very clear, let's say, play. But if you were to think of it, sorry, I'm using a little bit of jargon, but think about it horizontally and vertically. So the way we define our brands vertically is Scorpio is a brand which has Scorpio N and Scorpio Classic. They will cannibalize each other within each other. Thar now has Thar Roxx and Thar 3-door. There will be a cannibalization between these. XUV 700 is unique in its way, very little cannibalization with the 3XO. 3XO has very little cannibalization with the rest of the portfolio. So there would be cannibalization, between Scorpio N and Classic, between Thar Roxx and the 3-door version. But we see very little cannibalization horizontally. So a person who wants to buy a Scorpio, very few of them would consider 700. It's very, very, and you can relate to that. It's a very different, very, very different target group with, they look for something very different in a Scorpio and compared to what a 700 customer looks for. So we continue to have an aggressive, you're right, we've increased our investment compared to the 12,000 crores. We put out a fresh number in the last meet. We believe that firstly some of that was because we had to increase capacities, but also we believe that we need to have a very strong ICE portfolio while we are building the electric strategy. So we've invested in creating exciting new products that will come in on the ICE side. Also new commercial vehicles. In this conversation we are focusing so much on SUVs, but over the last 4 or 5 years we've gained significant market share in our LCV less than 3.5 ton segment. We've rehauled the entire pickup portfolio. Just a few weeks back we've introduced Vero, which is a new player in that segment, which actually, apart from being very strong by way of its commercial vehicle capability, it actually feels like a car. So it has infotainment system and all of that, which really we believe that the driver of a commercial vehicle should not feel that they're driving something inferior, and we should bring all the capability we have being a SUV car player or SUV passenger vehicle player into a commercial vehicle segment, and Vero is off to a very good start too. So a lot has happened on the commercial vehicle side as well, and all of this is leading to a very exciting portfolio of Born Electrics, which of course will launch in 2025, but also a very strong commercial vehicle portfolio. Yeah, so we've said that at an appropriate time when the customers need a hybrid solution, we are totally open to creating hybrid options, and we can bring hybrid options to the market. Really, right now the way we see this is, firstly, we believe incentives should be for destination technologies, and electric vehicles is a destination technology. We believe that's right for the country, not only from a climate standpoint but from an economic standpoint. We're already seeing excellent penetration on the electric three-wheelers, which has come to about 20% penetration of the market. We believe that's the destination technology, and it needs to be incentivized because it's really good for the country. Hybrid, there will be a set of customers who will want hybrids, and in a way we refer to it as the analogy of diesel and gasoline in the earlier era. If a customer is looking for a little more fuel efficiency and has a very high vehicle usage, then they may choose to buy a hybrid as an option. At this point of time, a lot of our customers are buying us not for fuel efficiency as much as they're buying us for the thrill and the power and the exhilaration and the brand DNA, which is a very different profile of customers than we had 5-6 years back. So at this point of time, hybrid is not a key driver for our customers. In some sub-segments or at some appropriate time, when we believe our customers do need hybrid as a solution, we'll be totally open to it. Firstly, on the global, when you look at the global story at this point of time, Manu, there is a little bit of a plateauing, but that's after the EV penetration has crossed 15%. India, we are less than 2%. So we are still very, very far away from the need for any global comparison. In markets like China, it's way beyond 15%. So, we are very far away from having to figure out where we are compared to the rest of the globe. So on the India side, or in India, we're going to launch a very exciting range of lifestyle born electric vehicles. They are going to be launched in early 2025. We believe they are stunning designs with packed with technology and really fun to drive. And that's really will be the positioning. It's not going to be sold as a economical solution to buy electric instead of ICE because you'll save so much fuel a month. We don't think that's the proposition at this point of time. And we believe that like products, just the way products like Thar have created a category, our born electrics will create a category and will create excitement. And it's the critical thing is to get past the first inflection point where you get customers in and then they start loving the experience and they spread that. We do believe that none of the current offerings in the market are the ones which are really wowing customers, and once we have products which wow customers, I think the category will take off. No, we are not concerned about market share at this point of time. The category is so small, like I said, it's less than 2% of the total market. So really our job is going to be on how to create this category and get people excited about the prospect of owning a product of the kind that we are going to launch. Yeah, so when we spoke, Manu, 2-3 years back, we were selling about 18,000-20,000 a month of SUVs. Today, I mean, in the month of September, we crossed 50,000. So we've seen significant growth, and of course, that's come out of creating capacities, bringing down waiting periods, which is what we had said we'll focus on, and we've been able to do that. So we've increased our capacity quite significantly from the time that you spoke about, which is when we were doing 18,000-20,000 a month. And of course, the constraints then were not only related to our own capacity, they were also related to the supply chain, availability of chips, so on. A lot of that, supply chain pressure has eased off. So we are, we are now we have good capacities. The Thar Roxx demand may be way beyond that capacity, and that's something we'll have to address as we go forward. Yeah, so what we had already announced, Manu, was that we will buy components of the MEB platform of Volkswagen, which is what will go into the Inglo platform. So that is a supply agreement we've already signed up for. That is something which has been done. At that time, we had also said that we would explore other opportunities for synergy or collaboration with the VW group. And that is a conversation that we've said is on, and there's no meaningful outcome of that as yet. I think, Manu, partnerships in the automotive space are going to be a thing every OEM will have to explore very seriously, because there's so much of rapid change in technology and multiple options that customers expect, that every OEM will need a partnership of some kind to be able to create a large portfolio for their customers. Sometimes it may just be a technology partnership of the kind that we've done on cells and electric components with the Volkswagen Group. So, Manu, the starting point always of any question of this kind has to be, what are we going to do to keep our customers wowed every time? And if we make that as the starting point, then all the business questions start falling in place as a consequence of that. Going back to your earlier question on how did we convince our stakeholders on a strategy of the kind that we undertook, it really came out of this conviction that if we are going to create wow products for customers, the rest of the business strategy will follow that. And I think that's what we're going to pursue going forward. Our born electric strategy is based on the same principle that we have to create something which is an amazing offering for customers, and that is what will get adoption going. So in every segment, we've just done that with Vero right now. Our effort will always be to do things which excite our customers, and we believe growth will follow.